Namaste and good morning, everyone. Let's start our Wednesday class, but let's do the prayers first. Om Guru Brahma Guru Vishnu Guru Devo Maheshwara Guru Sakshat Parbrahma Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Om Bhu Bhuvaswaha Tatsavitra Varenayam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yo Naha Prachodayat Asto ma satgamya tamso ma jyotirgamya mrityorma amritam gamya Om sehna bhavatu sehna bhunaktu saviryam karvavahi tejasvi navadhitamastu ma vidvishavahi Om shanti shanti shanti. In these classes we study our scriptures. And I always tell you that in Hinduism, we have a library of scriptures. We can keep on studying all our life. There's no end to them. Ocean of knowledge in those scriptures. And we also know that the ancient scriptures, which are called Vedas, are said to be eternal. A lot of people, they question when they hear this. They say that, what are you trying to tell us? How can Vedas be eternal? This confusion arises when we think of the Vedas merely as books. See, just like some people think that Vedas were stolen by the Germans and they took over there. Sure, books can be taken. But if we understand what Vedas are really, it can never be stolen. And certainly, a book cannot be eternal. Yet, as has been mentioned before, the Vedas are actually a body of knowledge. Remember that. It's a body of knowledge, and knowledge is not something which is produced. It is ever existent. Just like we are all familiar with Newton's law of gravity, it's named after Newton, the scientist who discovered it. But you think he created it? That law or force was ever present in the universe. And the knowledge of it, therefore, was an ever-present possibility. So this is why we never say a scientific law has been created. Only it has been discovered. Because the knowledge of it was covered at first by ignorance, avidya, and then that was removed. When we remove the darkness, remove the avidya, remove the ignorance, knowledge is already there. So you don't create it, you only discover it. Once in a chemistry class, the teacher told his students that oxygen was discovered in the 16th century. So one student asked, what were people breathing before that time? Did the teacher's statement was not there prior to its discovery? Of course not. In the same way, knowledge is eternal, and the Vedas, which are synonymous with knowledge, are also eternal. We should know this. The Vedas are technically termed Shruti, revealed knowledge. That they are revealed is an important point. They are not the composition of a human being or a human mind. It did not arrive through intellectual or logical reasoning. Because intellectual and logical, it is based upon the sense perception. The Sanskrit word, verbal root, shru, means to hear. And shruti means that which is heard. When I hear something, that which is heard by me is not my composition, but is something spoken of or revealed by someone other than myself. So for this reason, the Vedas are said to be a Parusha. That means not of human origin, a Parusha, and are considered as revelations. But who revealed that knowledge? The scriptures say the Vedas are the breath of God. I'm sure you have all heard that. Just as our breath emanates naturally, effortlessly. We got to make an effort only when we are sick. Healthy person, it happens naturally, effortlessly from us as long as we are alive. The Vedas are considered to be the very breath of Lord Himself. This knowledge or Vedas was effortlessly revealed by the Lord to those rishis. It was revealed to them. And who are rishis? Rishis have a purified mind and intellect. That's why we are told to purify yourself. What is a yoga sadhana? To purify yourself. So rishis who had purified, tuned, and made their minds single-pointed through meditation. So we got to be ready to receive that knowledge also. Purest of the pure knowledge, if we want to receive, our apparatus has to be pure too. It cannot be put into the dirty container. This reception of knowledge is something like a radio. We all know when you tune the radio properly to the frequency of particular radio station, it receives the sound waves in the atmosphere and then reproduces the broadcasted program, whether it's a TV or radio. When we hear the program, we do not give credit to the radio or the TV by saying, oh, what a nice talk that radio gave or the TV gave. Where does the credit go? The same way this purest of the pure knowledge was revealed to the rishis. They never took the credit. They never took the ownership. They never sold it because they knew that it does not belong to them. But in Kali Yuga, our minds have become so corrupted. We just want to put our stamp on everything. So these pure-minded rishis were like receivers who had tuned their minds to the frequency or the vibrations of the revelations of the Lord. They were able to receive divine knowledge. This is divine. Every word written in Vedas is divine. That's why, what do I tell you? These books where the mantras are written, do not put them on the floor. So divine knowledge, name of God is written there. Repeatedly, we have to tell people. So they were able to receive divine knowledge, which they then imparted to their disciples. The rishis took no personal credit for what they heard and taught, because that knowledge was something ever present and available to be known. Ourselves also, if we can own our higher, we will not get rishis. That is our goal of life. Do not waste your time into the useless things. Connect yourself to the divine knowledge. Become rishi. We don't have to put the name or the title in front of our name. Our actions, our thoughts will show that we are rishis. Our mere presence will show that we are the rishis. We don't have to change the clothes. We don't have to put the tilk on our forehead. We don't have to run into the jungles. And certainly we don't have to change our name. Our conduct, our behavior, our thoughts. So we can all become great rishis. So you can say that Shruti is the breath of the Lord, eternal, revealed knowledge. Okay, so Shruti word is for the Vedas. The Vedas were, that's why they are called primary scriptures. They were revealed from the very source. Then the second category of scriptures is called Samriti. Sanskrit root again, Samri. Samri means to remember. And Samriti means memory. So Samriti Shastra is knowledge that is remembered. When we learn something from someone and then teach it to others, our method of teaching will differ from person to person. Though all of us as students may learn from one and the same teacher, our individual ways of practicing and teaching that knowledge will be modified according to our own understanding, or sometimes according to the time, need, circumstance, and people to whom we are speaking, who our audience is. The knowledge which we teach and speak of from memory is called Samriti. We have not produced or created that knowledge, but are imparting it as we remember it. Remember that. So in the Vedic times, there were great kings and rishis who had studied the Vedas and who had practiced and mastered and experienced the essence of that knowledge in their lives. There were other people, however, such as renunciates or householders, who approached them and said, "Sir, the knowledge imparted by the Shruti is very difficult for us to understand." So it's not that the Vedas, the knowledge of the Vedas was not available. It was available to everybody, but they could not understand it. So these people will ask these great masters that please teach us a more practical application of that knowledge, which we can follow. So this became the duty of the great masters to communicate and teach Shruti according to the needs of the society at a particular time and place. This is always necessary, for times constantly change. We all know society is not static. It's dynamic. Change is the very essence of it. So although values are eternal, the way in which they are translated into action and lived in our lives varies. In fact, it is all due to Samriti Shastra that the Hindu religion has survived through time. Despite numerous invasions and onslaughts upon the culture. We all know that. The great masters come from time to time to tell us not to become so rigid in our rituals, to be more flexible, and to live this knowledge in a way that is suitable to the times. So the truth doesn't change, but the application can change. For example, it is said that one should get up early, have a bath in the Ganga river, and offer prayers to sun. But how are we to do this? Living in America especially, or even in India, if we are not in that same place, how do we do it? If you're not near Ganga, or if there's no river in our town, or if we live in a country other than India, how are we supposed to do Ganga Shnan and recite those beautiful mantras at that time? We can just remember Ganga while standing under our shower, wherever we are. And this itself will be Ganga Shnan. So remembering that holy river. This is an example of a practical application of a Shruti injunction, which when taught by a master is a Samriti. The second purpose of a Samriti Shastra is to tell us what our specific duties and responsibilities are. When we are told by Shruti to strictly perform our duties, dedicating them to God, most of the people have the problem of knowing exactly, first of all, what my duty is and how do I offer it to God. So whether one is a student, a householder, king, administrator, engineer, doctor, or lawyer, it is the Samriti Shastra that will find our specific duties pointed out. They are laid there beautifully, and often in a very simple language also, in detail. Many teachers are called Samriti Kars. So they have appeared in our society. So as a result, what do we have? Samriti, many Samriti Shastras. There is a Prashar Samriti, Gautam Samriti, Kautilya Samriti. Some people even say that Bhagavad Gita is technically considered a Samriti, because Lord Krishna remembered the knowledge that was the essence of the Upanishads and taught to Arjuna in his own words. But then people who consider Lord Krishna as a incarnate, they say it came out of the mouth of God, mouth of Lord. So that's why this Bhagavad Gita got the status of Shruti, due to the fact that it focuses more on the spiritual knowledge than it does on day-to-day duties and observances. For the understanding of our specific duties and for the benefit of society, the most famous and very important Samriti is Manu Samriti. I'm sure you've heard that name. As the name implies, this scripture originated with Manu. Who is Manu? He was a mind-born son of the creator, Lord Brahma. From the name Manu, we get the Sanskrit words Manushya and Manav, meaning human beings, and later became man in English also. So thus in Hinduism, we are all regarded as the children of Manu. When Lord Brahma started creating, it is said that Manu, the man, was born from one half of his mind. And the Shatarupa, a woman, was born from the other half. Shatarupa became Manu's wife. And from these two came the rest of the creation. Because Lord Brahma instructed them to create the progeny. We read a similar account in the Bible that when God created Adam and from Adam's rib, Eve was created. Some stories are like that also. They became the parents of all human beings. So Manu's role in the universe was similar to that of the religious defense minister of the total cosmos, to protect Dharma and see that people follow the righteous way of living. Manu assured the maintenance of Dharma through prophets, devotees, and saints who come into the world from time to time. It's not just only once. And at any given time, they can be many. Lord Brahma himself taught the Dharma Shastra to Manu. And it was Manu's duty to impart this knowledge to the rishis, who in turn taught the rest of the society. In the first chapter of Manu Samriti, we find Manu seated while other rishis approach and prostrate to him, saying, "O great Lord, you know the mystery, Rahasya, the essence of the Dharma Shastra. Please teach it to us for the welfare of the entire society. All people should know what is their common and specific Dharma." So that's why I said in the Samritis, we have a detail about the duties and the responsibilities. But often we don't read the scriptures. We just doubt them or we point fingers at them. We should try to understand it. Take some time out to study the scriptures. So when these rishis, they asked him, Manu answers all those questions by describing how the whole creation came forth from the one God. He tells them further that it was Lord Brahma who taught all this to him. He did not say it's my knowledge. He said the creator Brahma taught me this. And he has in turn taught this to sage Bhrigu. Manu then requests Bhrigu to impart the knowledge to the sages present. The whole Manu Samriti is made of Rishi Bhrigu's discourses to all the other rishis. In the world, we find that everyone engages in various activities to fulfill their desires. Because any action we do, because we want to fulfill our desire. Smriti says, whatever is done by a human being is prompted by some desire. We never do anything without any desire. Sure, the desire could be sattvic or rajasic or tamasic. Desire could be very intense or very moderate or very feeble, but it's always some desire which prompts us to do something. And Manu Samriti talks about that. Everyone believes that they will become happy when their desires are fulfilled. But this is the problem. We have experienced it. In the process of trying to fulfill a desire, a strange thing happens. As Manu Samriti explains in another verse, desires are not satiated by their fulfillment. The more one tries to satisfy them, the more they grow. If we study scriptures like this, will we run into this worldly pleasure, sensuous pleasure? If we believe in these words of God, our life will be? Can we even imagine? Curiously, we do not recognize our attempts to fulfill a desire right to more desires, and hence they multiply. Though one may gain a temporary satisfaction trying to quench a desire by fulfilling it, but it is like trying to put out a fire by adding more fuel to it. And when we put more fuel into the fire, what happens? The fire increases. The same thing happens with the desires. At the moment, we think that we are fulfilling the desire, but before we know, there are 10 more desires. We also know that the more desires a person has, the more agitated his or her mind will be. Stress, agitation, anxiety, anger, they're all directly related with the number of desires which we have. And as long as a desire exists in the mind, there will also be restlessness, fear also, and of course, anxiety and constant worry. Constant worry. What is this worry? I do not know whether my desire will be fulfilled or not. How or when will it be fulfilled? If it is fulfilled, how long will I be able to enjoy it? All those questions, they just automatically come into the mind. As a consequence of these worries, many other negative emotions, such as frustration, anger, they arise. In other words, to be fulfilled with the desire is not a very desirable state. Remember that. The best principle, according to our Samriti Shastras, is to give up all desires. Very clearly, it's written that freedom from desire is total happiness. Not fulfillment of the desire, but freedom from desires. At the same time, to immediately become desireless is impossible for us human beings. Because if we have been working like this, that I got to fulfill desires, others are doing it, why can't I do it? So how do we all of a sudden become desireless? So it seems like that we are caught. What should we do? Realizing that desires create problems and that desirelessness is good but seemingly impossible, can we live with these desires and fulfill them without creating new ones? Just like if you have a bucket full of desires, you say, okay, I'm gonna just fulfill those, but I will not create new ones because I'll be very careful about it. And another question is, at the same time, how can we grow out of our present desires? Here comes the beauty of the Dharma Shastra. It prescribes how to attain these goals to rise above the desires and reach immortality. So these scriptures, they give us, they teach us, they have the answers. But it's up to us to get the answers and apply those also in our life. So dealing with this problem is the heart and the art of these scriptures, which are called Dharma Shastra. So if we cannot understand the Shrutis because they are so deep, we don't understand the language, we don't have a guru who can explain it to us, then at least we can study the Samriti Shastras. Why is it essential to know this art? Because this is an art. To be happy, to be calm, to move towards the ultimate goal is an art. Let us take an analogy. We may try to avoid driving on the freeway, as there is always a possibility of an accident. But if it is a necessity that we should definitely learn the art of driving, properly know the laws of traffic, so that we can reach our destination safely. Otherwise, we might feel it would be nice if we never had to eat. That's another example. Because when we eat, we think we are always hurting something. But we must eat in order to live. Yet, once we start eating, there is the other problem. If not being able to stop, particularly when there is a lot of junk food or fast food. Often people say, if you eat one potato chip, you just don't even know when you finish the whole bag. We may also develop a craving for one particular kind of a food. So how do we deal with these problems? We know that we must eat, and we must learn what to eat, when to eat, how much to eat, how to eat. So the same thing goes for this performing our duties also, doing our responsibilities also. So our Samritikars, or the teachers of the Samriti, understood our problem. Though desirelessness is true happiness, a human being cannot suddenly become desireless. They knew that. They were the greatest psychologists. So these scriptures they created to help us. They wanted to teach us, because these great rishis, the great gurus, the reason they come over here on the earth, because they have a compassion towards people like us. They don't have to come. They're already one with God. They have reached the destination, but they come again and again in this mortal world. So the scriptures help us how to live and deal with our present desires without becoming slaves to them. And how to ultimately grow out of these desires. It is possible to live on this earth as a desirelessness. But how to reach there? It will definitely take the patience and the vigilance and to learn the art. Just like if we want to move from eating junk food, fast food, to a healthy food, you need to know what to eat and what not to eat. So this is what these scriptures are telling us. In conclusion, then the Samriti Shastra tells us that the best state to attain is desirelessness. We got to look within. Are my desires getting less than yesterday or not? Because we cannot take our mind to the last life or even last week. Let's look at yesterday. Am I making enough effort to prune my desires or not? Because happiness we want, that is given because our essence is happiness, joy, bliss. We want peace. Mind will be ever at peace if we have control over our desires. And we know that this state is not easily attained. We find it impossible to give up all our desires. People often say, how can we live without desires? But they want permanent happiness, But they think that by fulfilling the desires, they can attain happiness. First, you got to understand the mechanics of it, the art of it, and then work on it. This is our problem, and to solve it must have proper discrimination. And discrimination means it's kind of vague. To be able to discriminate what is true, what is false, what is temporary, what is permanent, what is useful for me and what is useless for me, to be able to discriminate which desires should be fulfilled and also in what matter. See, just like anything in this Prakriti, it can be sattvic, rajasic, or tamasic. Only we can check, because desires are in our mind. We got to check my desires. Are there any tamasic desire I have? At least get rid of that. So constantly we got to look at what kind of a desires we have, how many we have, and are we trying to reduce them or not? How can we live so that there is neither continuous restlessness of the mind nor suppression of it? This is what the scriptures tell us. This is what gurus teach us. The Dharma Shastra, which I'm talking about, these Samritis, they teach us how to live a life of discretion, of righteousness, and how to act and fulfill our desires in a way that will ultimately help us grow out of them. So in other words, all the answers are embedded in there. So we got to take some time to study these scriptures. Sure, we are all studying Bhagavad Gita, but that also not just to read it, but to study it. But pick up some other Samriti Shastra also, some Dharma Shastra also. Study that and see what do you get out of it. But keeping in mind that we want the ultimate peace, not just a shadow of peace here and there. We want the real peace, sustainable peace, and it is attainable. They are written by those rishis who have attained it. So that's what they're telling us. It's not just a superfluous knowledge in there. The fundamentals should be clear to us. So today I just wanted you to have some understanding of the basic scriptures and have respect for them. And I wanted you to just know that how important they are. That's why the gurus keep on telling us, Swadhyaya, Swadhyaya, study, don't waste time. Human life is very precious. Do not waste. Swadhyaya should be very much part of our daily routine. There shouldn't be a day when we don't pick up these scriptures and study them and see, after studying or hearing, we are supposed to reflect. After reflecting, we got to see, am I following it or not? That's why those 3 steps, Shravan, Manan, Nidhi, Dhyasan, is very important. That's why Yudhishthir said, sure, I heard Satyam Vada Dharmam Char. He said, I heard it. I reflected upon it, but I'm not following it fully. We should learn from those examples. Great leaders They should be our role models. Okay, so this was just a very general topic for you guys. I'm sure you all are studying the scriptures, but I just wanted you to make sure that study them with the more faith, please. Okay. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaye Purnameva Vishishyate. Om Shanti 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 Om. Thank you very